this is Richard Klein coming at you again with another tape recorder presentation. This particular cassette tape recorder is the COPAL model CT-700. It is a very nice and very miniature cassette recorder. Of course, it uses standard cassette tapes, single speed, half-track mono, you know, 1 7/8 inches per second, your general cassette tape deal. But it is a very nice little machine. It's extremely well made. Uses a dual flywheel design, which means that the machine can be moved about a lot without it causing variances in speed, like, you know, wow and flutter as it's moved around. So it has a very stable speed, which is delightful, especially for a small-size cassette recorder. It is automatic level control, and very nicely, it even has a little meter on there. Even though it's ALC, you can still see kind of what the recording level is. Excuse me, I apologize for that burp. Also, this recorder is AC bias. Now, although I have not verified it officially, I do think it's also AC erase due to the very low background noise. So I'm very pleased with that. And it has electrical pause and almost all metal construction. The case is all metal except for the very top and bottom side pieces are black plastic, but all the silver you see on the case, thank you very much, that's solid metal. And the mechanics inside, lots of metal. I mean, there are a couple plastic gears in there for rewind and fast forward, but most of it's metal. Flywheels are made of brass, and it's a very well-made, very precision-engineered Japanese cassette tape recorder. And probably not very many people out there have heard of the COPAL name, perhaps aside from in Japan. I couldn't find too much on this machine, except for other sites where this machine was being sold. Some of those auction sites entirely Japanese. I'm getting the impression that this recorder was more of a Japan-only thing and not exported very much. It may have been exported some, but probably not very much. It probably wasn't that well known outside of Japan. Correct me if I'm wrong. But from what I found, the COPAL company, back in the day at least, made mainly cameras and film projectors. This is the only cassette recorder I can find by COPAL, and I can't find any COPAL reel-to-reel recorders aside from the standard Unicorder 89 recorder, which I have,
my camera's
which
doing it.
uses a mechanism made by COPAL, although the rest of the machine, I believe, is by Standard Radio Corporation. But anyway, I just think this is a really cool cassette recorder, very well designed, very precision made. And music you hear in the background is not by me, it is by Bill Vermette from the Voyager album. And it's the first track off that album called Echo Cliffs. I hope you enjoyed this deal.
My stupid camera is just, the tripod, I don't have it hammered down enough, you know what I mean? It just keeps going on its own. It's extremely annoying. But anyway, that's a recording done through professional equipment on the COPAL CT-700. That's a Shure good grief. The Shure SM57 put through the Symmetrix 528E. That's kind of becoming a standard deal that I used to record onto the cassette, background music, all that kind of stuff through a mixer. And but of course this has a built-in mic, so we can show recording with a built-in microphone. You can see the little meter fluctuate to the sound. Hello? I'm recording with a built-in microphone. Let's see how this comes out. And then microphone, you can see the little meter fluctuate to the sound. Hello? I'm recording with a built-in microphone. Let's see how this comes out. How does this recorder whisper? Yes, I whispered. Let's see how this sounds. How does this recorder whisper? Yes, I whispered. Let's see how this sounds. Okay, and then of course we'll try it with a dynamic mic, the Sony SM, excuse me, I was starting to say the Shure's model number, the Sony F96. Every time you have a bone, you can feel it inside. Can you feel it in your bones? Like an adrenaline rush. So strong, it's beyond words. Every time you have a bone, you can feel it inside. Can you feel it in your bones? Like an adrenaline rush. So strong, it's beyond words. Okay. Very nice little recorder. Very fun. Very compact. I love the dual flywheel design. And you can see in here I put some felt, you know, to prevent this metal from touching this metal and possibly scratching it. To prevent the little backs of these snap-on deals possibly scratching it. You know, I just get kind of really cautious about stuff like that, because if I make even the most minor scratch on a nice metal case of a recorder like this, I never can forgive myself, and it will always be with me, and it will always be bothering me. So yeah, this is a very small recorder. Let's compare the size of this recorder to the Sony TC-55. The Sony TC-55 is another recorder. So this COPAL is from 1977 because a motor has a date on it. The Sony TC-55 came out in 72, I believe, so around 72, 73 would have been whenever this machine was made. This is also a dual flywheel cassette recorder. Let's compare the size of these. They're very similar. The COPAL's a bit longer and thinner, and also less wide than the Sony. But the Sony's a little bit shorter because the Sony is more typical in this type of recorder's fashion. That is, the speaker is on the back, which is very common on this style of recorder. Handheld cassette recorders, generally the speaker is on the back. I really like how on the COPAL the speaker is on the front right next to the cassette. So it gives it kind of a different feel. Yet it's still very compact and very good quality. My only complaint with the design of this machine is the fact that it does record really hot on the tape. Up to +7 dBs according to my Nakamichi BX300. So it does tend to record hot on the tapes, but it still sounds pretty good. When I first got this recorder, there was some bad news. It came with a 12-volt power pack that was made by Netgear, obviously for some kind of a computer network device. And I take it that the previous owner had overvolted this recorder, plugging it into that 12-volt power pack. And unfortunately, the poor BA546 audio amplifier chip took the brunt of it, and must have given out its magic smoke because the chip was fried. So I have since ordered a replacement IC and installed it into the recorder. I also took care of an automatic level control problem where the ALC, although it was working, it kind of had an odd kick whenever you first started saying something. And I took care of that by increasing the capacitor in the ALC control circuit capacitor value from a 47 microfarad to a 220 microfarad. believe it or not. I also put a parallel 47 kilo ohm resistor just to discharge the capacitor a little bit quicker, since the value, of course, was so much larger. Also, bear in mind, the original belt is still good. Also, bear in mind, the original belt is still good. Come with me on a little adventure, a little bit back in time, not very far, where I had the machine opened and put in a amplifier chip, which was a little bit different but similar, and then put the original back in and all that original model back in. First tape recorder acquisition for 2020 is an extremely beautifully made, precision made, built like a tank COPAL CT-700 cassette recorder. The only problem is that the seller was so kind as to include this Netgear power adapter, which I'm sure they probably used to try testing it at one point, which put 12 volts DC into the 6 volt designed system and fried the amplifier chip. So that's going to have to get replaced, and I'm hoping I'll find the right chip, because it's kind of hard to see the writing on there since it's messed up by it being blown. But thankfully it's all through-hole parts and should be easy to fix, provided I can find the chip, which I'm sure is an off-the-shelf part. I removed the old IC from the cassette recorder. It was kind of hard to make out what it said, but through several searches I was able to find that it's a BA 546 0.33 watt audio amplifier chip. I've since ordered some on eBay, but in the meantime I'm impatient and I did some research. This recorder, which is at least a temporary donor, the Panasonic RQ356, which cosmetically is in bad shape anyway, has a chip, the BA 527 0.8 watt audio amplifier chip, which is pin-to-pin compatible. Even in the data sheet of the 546 it mentions how it's pin-to-pin compatible with the 526 and 527 amplifier chips. With this chip in the COPAL cassette recorder, will have even a stronger amplifier than the original. Here's the old chip with the new chip underneath. Notice the mark where the old one had blown, and the notch here at the top indicating pin 1, and the notch here at the top indicating pin 1. Okay, the new chip fits right in there. Desoldering irons really make this kind of work a whole lot easier than it would otherwise have been. Okay, the chip is soldered in the recorder. We'll put some batteries in here. See if it comes to life. Is that pleasing or what?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. This is the first record test of the COPAL CT-700 cassette tape recorder. ALC working extremely well. Wait for the sensitivity to build up. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello.
Talk about it. I replaced just a couple caps. One was not really that leaky. One was only just a tad leaky. but the ALC sounded a little funny, so I figured I wanted to see about it, and figured the ALC cap is the one connected to the diode on here, so I replaced it. So anyway, the original belt seems to still be alright. Rewind is not the strongest, but does work. But you can see here it's a dual flywheel design. Single capstan though, the erase head would be in the way of the other, where the other one would be, but dual flywheel, so it should have a good speed stability even when the machine is being moved about while operating. Very well made. I mean, there are some plastic gears in there, but brass dual flywheels, lots of metal mechanics elsewhere. Extremely well made recorder. Lots of metal, really not too much plastic. There's some plastic, but really a lot of this is metal. The outer case is metal. It's a very well made machine, and to have that new chip in there is just great. And anyway, it's a very good recorder. Here's the other side of the recorder. There was actually one more chip inside this machine. You can see that single inline package down there, and thank goodness that other chip was not blown. I think probably what happened, see, the original chip's absolute maximum voltage was 12 volt. And the power adapter that was supplied with this, that supplied 12 volts, I measured it to be 14 volts. So it would have overvolted this chip. And I'm guessing probably the amplifier would have worked originally when he tried it, and then probably slowly the chip overheated and failed. I don't think it exploded, it probably just overheated. So anyway, I'll take the cassette out of there, and you can see that it looks very clean. This machine, the head to transport was very clean. It probably didn't get too much use originally. And on the motor, if you can see that, this is from 1977, this tape recorder. So it predates the 80s, 1970s vintage, very small for its time. Cost $70 when new. I managed to see on something on the internet, although I think this machine was mainly a Japanese machine, because most stuff I find online are Japanese website, like Japanese auction sites where this model is being sold. So I think this recorder was not too popular outside of Japan. If you look inside this hole, you can see adjustment provided for the slug of the AC bias oscillator coil, which is extremely pleasing. I really like how the speaker looks. Oh my gosh. One thing I want to do, right on that little circle there that's blurry and you can't see clearly, I'm going to put some felt over that with double-sided tape, because the original felt that covers that metal piece there is kind of, I guess, just some of it's kind of gone, and I'd rather not risk the sharpness of that or stiffness of that metal scratching the beautiful case of this recorder, which is now back together again, and this music was recorded using this recorder. For felt there, and also because of this metal cosmetic piece being able to touch the metal of the recorder, and me being too afraid of it slightly scratching the recorder from pressure, I put some felt on there as well, and I just used some double-sided tape. Good old Scotch, can't go wrong. It's a good old 3M. The new amplifier chip, the BA546, has come in the mail. So what I want to do is return it to its original design and see how it performs. So we're going to unsolder this. Let's move this wire out of the way here. There we go. Just move that over this a little bit here. Oh man, we gotta clean this blooming thing out again. This is still good. Now we got the BA 546, which is the original design, according to the original design of this recorder. And we'll solder him in. Okay. You can see that little axial-leaded cap in there that has a lead bent down. It's a 220 microfarad cap replacing a 47 microfarad one in the ALC control circuit. The 47 microfarad capacitor in there was what I call automated level control hits, where it's kind of a weird sound whenever it first gets a stronger signal when it's most sensitive. So increasing the capacitor value will dampen that. I've done that before with the other chip, and then when I put the original type of chip back in, I wanted to see how it would go with the original value of 47, but seeing that we were still having some of those ALC problems, I'm putting the 220 back in there, and in parallel with the 220 microfarad capacitor, I put in a 47k ohm resistor to discharge the capacitor a little bit to make the recovery time, i.e. the time it takes for the recording level to get back to maximum, a little bit quicker because of the slower discharge of the 220 versus the 47.
This has been a Cassette Master production.